The door of any university is open to Mary. The girl graduated from high school with honors. And her mother was in a high position. Rich and powerful. But Mary chose to love her boyfriend Adam and did not intend to leave the town. To everyone around them, they were meant for each other. Though the girl's mother disapproved and thought their love was very foolish. Mary is very stubborn. "This is my life," she shouted to her mother. "I will decide for myself what I am going to do. I can study at any time. But I won't meet someone like Adam again for the second time. He is the only one. You understand?" "How can you understand if you never loved Dad?" The girl immediately stopped talking, realizing that she had said too much. But the words could not be taken back. The mother looked at her daughter seriously and said, "Well, from now on, I won't interfere in your life again. But when you are pregnant, don't cry to me. I am not your helper now. You are so independent that you should solve your problems by yourself." After that, the woman got up and left the living room. And the daughter fell into confusion. She didn't expect such a quick victory. When Mary told Adam the next day about the conversation with her mother, the fellow was not as delighted as she was. For the whole city knew the tough temper of the mayor on duty, who was exactly Mary's mother. But Adam did not tell the girl about his fears. And he really liked Mary's happy smile. He said suddenly and unexpectedly, "Get married." Mary was very surprised and asked him if he was joking. "I love you. And you love me. Let's get married and live like a proper family. And then your mother will calm down and realize that we mean it." Mary hugged her lover tightly. And she always knew that he was the best. And of course her mother would understand. As time went on, 2 months later, the young man got married quietly and modestly at the celebration. And friends and Adam's mother paid for the young couple's dress and ring. Mary's mother came to congratulate the young couple, but did not stay for the party. There wasn't even a smile on her face. After brief congratulations and gifts, the young couple's happiness didn't last long. A few months later, Adam died. He lost control of the car and drove it into the ditch. The car caught fire. The body was so disfigured that Mary could only recognize her husband by the chain around her neck. A month after her husband died, Mary realized that she was pregnant. At first she didn't want to go to her mother's. She remembered her words well. But she had nowhere else to go. Mary came to her mother, but surprisingly, she accepted her daughter with great enthusiasm and did not insist on abortion. 3 years later Mary married the son of her mother's friend, who adopted the child. And 13 years one day Mary was sitting in the kitchen, waiting for a delivery from an online store. And when he arrived the woman signed it almost without looking at the courier, and was about to close when all of a sudden, the delivery man called her name. And she looked up cautiously at the man. And in front of her stood her first husband, who she thought had been dead for exactly 16 years. Mary was so shocked that she invited Adam in, poured him water. And at the same time Adam began to tell the truth about him. It turned out that 16 years ago her mother had given Adam money and told him to leave town. And the woman threatened him that she would punish him if he did not. And Adam was afraid and agreed. And then she took his chain and the pendant that Mary had given him, and said it was to convince Mary that he was dead. For so many years, Adam lived in another state. And just a year ago, he returned to his hometown and started his own delivery company. Today, he saw a familiar address at the delivery place and couldn't resist it. He came by himself. "You know, I really want to see you. We used to live here together. I try my best not to get involved in your life. Because you have a husband and a son. Why are you surprised? Of course I asked some questions. But I naively thought you were single. But I decided to see you today. And I'm sorry for my weakness. Mary couldn't believe that. Her mother had done such a mean thing to her and ruined her life. She died 2 years ago. Of course Mary never knew her mother's role in her first marriage. After a moment's silence, Mary thought Adam had suffered a lot because of her family, that at least he had a right to know that he had a son. And when she told Adam everything, he was glad they had talked for a long time. But Mary's husband would be back soon. So the woman said goodbye to Adam and gave him her telephone number. The next day the courier brought a bunch of white chrysanthemums with a note inside. And tomorrow at 4 o'clock she would be in her favorite place. Which was her favorite scent. And Adam still remembered her favorite flower and her favorite place. And she decided in her heart that she would definitely go. So as to rekindle their affection. As if there had not been 16 years of separation. She saw Adam become rich. Driving a luxury car. Developing his own business. Renovating his apartment and living in a huge country house. If her mother had known at the time that he would succeed in life, she would not have hindered their marriage. Why are you not married? Mary once asked Adam. I only love you. I always wanted you back. Now that I have a son, are you going to tell him about me? Wait, Mary said. I can't do this right away. Our son must be prepared. After all, he thinks Hubert is his father all his life. Therefore, let's not tell him in a hurry. Adam agreed. But a week later, her son, Tobias, came home from school and said at dinner that he saw a man who showed himself like his real father and gave evidence. And the atmosphere suddenly became cold. But Hubert had no muscle twitches on his face. Which he said was just nonsense. Dinner was ruined. And Tobias went to his room. Now, Mary's husband looked at her coldly and went to his bedroom. The woman wept bitterly. And the next day she had a quarrel with Adam. For he had told her son everything. And Adam apologized and repented. Saying that this was also his son. And that he had a right to take part in his life. And at any rate it was time to decide something that I could not bear any longer. Adam said you must divorce and tell your husband the truth. Finally. Or maybe you don't want to be with me. And then tell me that I will disappear again. Only for this one chance. The man looked intently at Mary. Of course I want to be with you. The woman whispered. Now Hubert is having trouble at work and Tobias is going through a disaster. Mary. Let's do this. You and I are going on a 2-week holiday abroad. The air tickets have been booked. It leaves at 11 o'clock tonight. You go home now and pack your bags. Don't bring too many things. We'll buy the rest. We'll rest there. Stay together. Leave no one alone. Hubert will get used to the idea of divorce. And then when we come back, you file for divorce. And finally we'll start preparing for our own wedding. Mary was scared. But Adam was her first love. And the passion was really high, so she agreed. And when she came home, the woman told her husband everything about Adam and the holidays and divorce. You can fly anywhere. But I won't give you my son. Huberto said. Bias is an adult and he can decide who he wants to live with. He will be better. Mary said. Adam can give Tobias a better life. Not hearing any objection, Mary went to pack her things. And when Adam came to fetch her, It was already dark outside. And the woman got into the car. And immediately told Adam that she had revealed the truth to her husband. And she smiled triumphantly. They drove to the airport, which was an hour's journey. On the way, Mary dozed off for a while, and then suddenly woke up. A man woke her up with great strength. Adam spoke in a rough voice. Mary didn't understand anything. He opened the door, stood beside her, and dragged her outside. On the dark, cold and deserted road, Adam opens the trunk and throws her suitcase to the side of the road. "What are you doing? You're scaring me." Tears ran down Mary's face. "Did I scare you? You don't think I'm afraid? 16 years ago. Did you think I wasn't afraid of your mother? Who treats me like a dog? You and your mother have made a mess of my life. But there is a woman who shelters me, comforts me, feeds me. She is my wife. Always, of course. I am married. She is very kind to me, who is just a delivery man. You are in love with rented cars and rented huts." Adam laughs out loud. "You fool. I broke your life as you once broke mine. Goodbye, Mary." With these words, he got into his car and drove away. The woman couldn't believe what happened. She cried and walked on an abandoned road. The kind-hearted sent her to town. And then she took a taxi home. Although it was late at night, and the lights in her apartment were on. And Hubert went out of the kitchen and looked at Mary in disbelief, as she fell quietly on the floor and told him in tears what had happened. At the end of the story, she looks at her husband in pain and says, "I have no excuses. I chase the passion of the past and completely shatter everything good between us. And if you don't want to have anything to do with me, I will understand. But it is only now that I realize how silly I am." Hubert comes over and hugs her. Mary suddenly burst into tears and realized how kind and gentle her husband is. Everything in Mary's family is getting better. But this story has taught her to live in the moment and truly appreciate and respect her husband, which is the most important thing. Audrey and her grandmother lived in a small town, surrounded by a forest, where nature was very good. And the girl liked to run to the river in the early morning for a swim, which made the girl look slim and cheerful. And she swam like this until late autumn. But when her grandmother died, sad Stricker and Audrey kept crying and stopped going to the river. And after Walter appeared in their village, his parents sent him there as punishment. And he completely lost control, began to skip classes, was rude to his parents, and often drank with his friends at family meetings. It was decided to send him to his grandmother in the country for a summer, where he would surely diminish his arrogance and consider his behavior. But in the country the fellow did not behave any better. Soon he met Audrey and began to pursue her. When the girl realized that she was pregnant, she firmly believed that Walter would marry her as he should. But after hearing the news of the pregnancy, Walter said that it was over between them and that he would never marry such a stupid girl in the country, because he would be ashamed in front of his friends. The fellow said goodbye carelessly and left, Audrey shivering with resentment, tears running down her cheeks. And she absolutely did not know what she should do now. She had no family. Neither her mother, who had died long ago, nor her father, who had abandoned her mother before Audrey was born, nor her dear grandmother. Soon Walter's parents came from the city in a luxurious jeep, and he left the hateful town happily. Rumors about pregnancy soon spread through neighbors, whispering behind Audrey's back and after crying a little bit, She had no choice but to pack a few of her bags and set off for the city. At the end of high school, Audrey was trained to be a tailor. So she managed to get a job in a sewing factory in the city. And now she has at least some jobs. And most importantly, she is allowed to live in a dormitory where she can pay the lowest rent. The rooms are nice, brightly lit and decorated. And there is a good library and reading room near the dormitory, where she can work on a computer. Audrey immediately realized that computers are the future of the world. So she worked hard at computer graphics every night. At first she studied free courses. And then she began to buy courses. She wants to study as soon as possible, because the income in that field is much higher and the work is very interesting. Girls live a very simple life, saving money for nothing and not going anywhere. They always refuse invitations from colleagues to go to the movies. Saved some money and borrowed the lost money from her friend Ruth. She took a good 3D graphics course to create different virtual objects and game characters. And although Audrey had never played computer games before and had no confidence in her skills, once she saw the ad on the bus, she set a goal of mastering the skills. Months have passed. Audrey received a training certificate and enough knowledge, because she was looking for a job as a 3D artist. She needs a remote job. The rest of the time is getting less and less. Children are born. She can't go to work. It's very difficult to find a job, because no employer would agree to a part-time job, and Audrey didn't want to leave the factory, because inexperienced beginner 3D artists don't immediately pay decent wages. But she was still lucky. Managed to find a suitable job. Audrey had to borrow money to buy a computer and connect it to the internet. At first she was catastrophically short of time. She took on tasks and cried over them at night. She didn't have enough knowledge and experience. Audrey had to do a lot of extra learning and come up with everything for herself. But because she worked hard and had a good memory, she soon began to succeed. A baby boy was born. Audrey named him Tom. This is a strong and vocal baby. But after feeding, he immediately fell silent, without disturbing the young mother. A few months after giving birth, Audrey has started to play computer game characters for the advertising website 3D Merchandise online store. She not only draws and creates characters, but also has a good sense of fashion. Employers like it very much, especially because Audrey no longer fails to meet deadlines and works very fast, which can't help but affect her salary. And Audrey's income has allowed her to find an apartment, but she decided to stay in the dorm temporarily because she is used to it, and her neighbor Ruth is also a young mother to help her work with the computer in the same room as baby Audrey, and only to rest from her work to feed her son, while Ruth, who also has a son, to take care of the baby, which is not easy for Audrey. But she does not complain and firmly continues to work and does not pay attention to fatigue, although Ruth always tries to refuse money to take care of the little boy. Audrey, I will never forget to thank her financially, because